Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paige, and today I want to tell you the books that I read in May. I have not been doing monthly wrap-ups in a while. I just recently started making videos again for my booktube channel, and hopefully I will continue to do so. I'm trying to make it much more easy on myself. I'm going to start to try to do 2 videos a week. If that is too much, then maybe 1, but for now I'm going to try to do 2 videos per week. So today I want to tell you the books that I've read in May. I have so many books that I have not told you about for so many months now, since I've not been doing my monthly wrap-ups. So I won't be doing all those monthly wrap-ups that I missed, but I'm going to try to be doing some special videos to kind of include those books that I have missed telling you about. I've read some really great ones that I would love to share with you all, and so I'm going to try to incorporate those somehow in some videos that just won't be monthly wrap-ups. So anyway, we just finished up with May and it started in June, so I figured that I would go ahead and let you know what I did read in May. I read 21 books in May, and I started kind of keeping track of how many, like what star reads, and also the book formats where I read them from. So just a little bit of stats. I don't like to do too many stats because, like me, when people start just reading numbers, my brain just goes haywire. So I did read 21 books in May. I had 13 5-star reads. I had 7 4-star reads and 1 3-star read. I read 16 from Kindle Unlimited, 4 from Hoopla, 1 from Scribd, and yeah, that's it. So the first book that I read for May is Juniper Unraveling by Keri Lake. This was such a different book. This is the first book that starts off in that series. I believe it's the Juniper Unraveling series, if I'm not mistaken. But this is the first book in the series, and I've never read a romance like it, and it is very dark. So just to let you know before you go in, it does have very, on-page things that happen, some very horrific things. It does include, you need to check all the trigger warnings for this series because it is pretty dark, and it's kind of zombies. So if they're not really classified as zombies, but that's what they are. It's like this virus that has hit Earth. If you have the virus, then you're basically a zombie, but they're called Ragers in this book, in this series. I don't want to give too much information about this book because there are characters that, how to say this without giving it away, there are things, very surprising elements in this book that I can't really tell you. I can't even really tell you their names because that's just a part of the surprise in the book. This is about a girl who was taken from her mother. They're rounding up all the boys for these experiments at this hospital, and they're not treated very well at all. They kill the girls off and until they start keeping them for research. But her mother makes her look like a boy to, make her survive. At least she wants her to live. And she is now in this hospital doing horrific experiments on these kids because they're trying to find a cure for this virus. This is a very dystopian future. The future looks really bleak in it, and you're just fighting every day to survive. But I'm telling you, and I'm not even describing it enough, but if you don't mind dark, if you don't have any triggers, I highly recommend this series. It's very addictive to read, and I loved the first one, and I immediately had to binge the whole series. I gave Juniper Unraveling 5 stars, and then I had to immediately pick up the second book in the series, which is Calico Descending. I also gave it 5 stars. Calico is the hospital where they're doing all the experiments at, and this just involves another girl and boy from that hospital that they've been doing experiments on, and kind of continuing on in that storyline. Love this one as well. And then we also see the other characters from the first book in it. It's just, I can't tell you much about it without spoiling it, but just if you like dystopian futures, in romance and zombies and all that, you should definitely pick this series up because it is well worth the read. The third book I read for the month of May is Love Next Door by Helena Hunting. I love Helena Hunting's books, especially her Pug series. I could read the Pug series all day, every day. But this one did not do it as much for me. I felt this was more, it was just boring, really. I give it 4 stars because it still had a decent storyline. The girl's name is Dylan, and she moved off. She grew up in this small town. It's kind of a lake town, and she did not want the small town life, so she moved to Chicago, to the big city. But she has to come home because her brother just got into some trouble, and it leaves her family. They own their own construction company, I think it is, and so she has to come back to help them. And there she meets her next door neighbor, and that is their romance. And it is kind of an enemies to lovers situation at first. They don't get along at all. I didn't dislike this book. I just felt like this was one of her books that I didn't like as much, because she has some other ones that I think are so much better than this, and I don't even know if I'll continue on in this series, maybe later. But I did give it 4 stars, but not my favorite, by Helena Hunting. The next one I read is Power Plays in Straight A's by Eden Finley and Saxon James. This is an MM romance. This is about Foster and Zach. Foster has a twin brother, and his twin brother's best friend is Zach. So this is a brother's best friend romance story, and Zach is going to this new college. He transferred from his old college where he was bullied, and is starting at this new college where his best friend's brother goes. And his best friend kind of told his brother, hey, watch over him, you know, kind of look out for him. And so they start hanging out, and this is their romance. And it was cute. Not the best by Eden Finley. I loved her Fake Boyfriend series so much better, but it still was pretty good. And I listened to this one on audio on Hoopla, and I gave it 4 stars. So the next book is Kings of Carrion, which is the 3rd book in the Juniper Unraveling series. I of course gave this one 5 stars as well. Although this one broke my heart. I absolutely cried. I was up so late one night reading, because these books I could not put down. I had to constantly read. As soon as I woke up, I had to read. I stayed up so late, so many nights, binging these books because I could not put them down. But this one is kind of about all of the groups from the characters from the last 2 books. They're continuing on sort of in this mission. Something happened at the end of the 2nd book in the series, and they're kind of going on this rescue mission to rescue one of the group. And so this is sort of about what that is. And just, there's something that happens though that just totally broke my heart. I didn't know if I wanted to hate this book or love this book, but I mean, I still love the story. I loved it. I hated that this particular part happened in this book, because it was just so heartbreaking, but still such a fantastic book in the series, and I gave it 5 stars. And the next one I read was Twisted Love by Huang. I gave this one 4 stars. This one is about Alex and Ava. He is kind of tasked by his best friend to look after his best friend's sister while he's away, and they are pretty much enemies. She can't stand him for something that happened, because he's just so closed off and cold, and it's just kind of how he reacts, because he had a very traumatic childhood, and things have happened to him, and he's kind of carried on in his life, pretty much planning out this fairly big plan of justice, you know, taking justice on what happened to his family when he was young. And it is just how he presents himself, and she really misunderstands that, and she just doesn't understand why her brother is friends with someone like that. But this is their romance. It was good, but I didn't totally jive with it. I didn't totally connect with the story, and so I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read is Drowning Erin by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I love her books. I love them so much. I had to read another book in her you know, collection of books she's written. This is about Brendan and Erin. Erin is engaged to be married to this guy, and she is sworn enemies with Brendan, who is her fiance's like best friend. And She and Brendan kind of had a past of working together. He always liked her, but he never thought that he could settle down and have that type of love. So he kind of pushed her away, and then she met her fiance, and now they're engaged, and he regrets it. But her fiance has to go away out of country for his work, and so they really start spending a lot of time together. And there is no cheating, I don't think, in this book, but they start spending a lot of time together, and he kind of reminds her of who she used to be. She gave up so much for her fiance. She pretty much completely changed, and she realized that she's not the person that, you know, she truly wants to be, and he kind of helps her realize that. And she has things going on in her family that she's dealing with, and he helps her through it, and it's just a really great story. Of course, she knows that she is engaged to her fiance, and she can't do anything, but she's starting to have these feelings for Brendan, and it's just kind of a love triangle, and I love triangles. So I rated this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The next one is We Are Worthy by Alisha Williams. It's a Why Choose and a Megaverse romance, and this is about a girl named Tia. She goes to starts at this school. Once you become a certain age in this world, you're sent to the school to like try to find your pack, since it's an Omegaverse series. She's an Omega that is trying to find her pack, and she finds pretty much the pack on campus that is nobody really likes. They're kind of the underdogs of everyone. And this is their romance. It was cute. I gave it 5 stars. I really love Why Choose books and Omegaverse, so this was right up my alley. This was just really fun and entertaining to read, and I enjoyed my experience reading it. The next book I read was Meet Cute Club by Jack Harbon. I found this one on Scribd, and this is about Rex and Jordan. It's male romance. Jordan works at this bookstore, and Rex comes in and makes fun of him reading romance, and so they kind of get off on the wrong foot. And Rex is new to town because he is clearing out his grandmother's house after she died, and so they start to see each other around and form up kind of a friendship. And then Rex joins Jordan's book club, and it is their love story. It was cute. I enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one I read, this one has been on my TBR for so long, and this is Landon and Shay Part 1 by Brittainy C. Cherry. I love Brittainy C. Cherry. She is one of my favorite authors, and I am trying to finish all of her backlist. I've almost read her entire backlist. I think I have like 1 or 2 left to go. But this is a duet, and this is the first part of the duet, and of course I rated it 5 stars. This is about Landon and Shay. The first part is when they are teens in high school and how they met. Of course, they're also enemies at first. They have always just picked on each other until one night when she overhears his friends bet him that to see if he can make her fall in love with him. And she overhears this, and so she steps right in and says, well, I bet I can make him fall in love with me first. So they enter into this bet to see if they can make each other fall in love, and of course they fall for each other. And it is such a cute story. I love the first book, and of course it ended there's a lot of triggers in this one, especially for depression, and he is really struggling with depression. Landon doesn't have a great home life. His dad has really hardly anything to do with him, and his mom is just away for business so much of the time. The one person he relied on in his life committed suicide, his uncle, and so he's just really taken this hard, and he is very depressed himself. And they kind of leave off in the first part of this duet with him finding help and them kind of making this long distance relationship since he moves to another state. And then the next book I read is the last book in the Juniper Unraveling series. This concludes from the Rager zombie series. This one is about Titus and Thalia. This is just another of one of the boys that have been raised in this hospital where they did experiments on, and he meets this girl named Thalia. This is their romance. It's kind of hard to kind of explain this one since it kind of goes along with the storyline that I can't really tell you about, but so good. I rated it 5 stars and I love that series so much. And then I read the second part of the Landon and Shay duet. This is Landon and Shay part 2. I of course rated it 5 stars. This is then continuing on when they're adults. This is years later. They've had this long distance relationship and he's kind of been in and out of her life. He is now a well-known movie star and she is a struggling writer. She writes scripts for movies and she is really struggling in that she and Landon go through a lot in this book. Their relationship is really put to the test. They finally kind of have to part ways at one point, and it's just, there is a lot that goes on in this story. I completely understand why Brittainy Cherry had to make a duet of these 2 books, but the second book really goes on into how their lives go from there and how many struggles, ups and downs that they go through, and just to be together. And it was a really good conclusion to the duet, and I'm really glad that I finally read this duet by Brittainy Cherry. The next one I read is Where the Blame Lies by Mia Sheridan. I love Mia Sheridan. She writes a lot of more romantic suspense, and this one didn't really have a whole lot of romance in, but I loved it because it was very suspenseful. This is about Zach and Josie. Josie was kidnapped when she was 19 and she was kept chained in this basement. Horrific things were done to her. There's definitely a lot of triggers in this book. It goes through all of her captivity, and she actually had a baby in captivity and the baby was taken from her. She was rescued and now she's been looking like 8 years for her baby and they cannot find him. Now there is a copycat serial killer that has come up killing these women and doing it in like kind of the same way that she was held captive, and so she is put under protection, and that's where she meets Zach, which he's a detective, and so he's trying to solve this case, and it is very shocking who ends up being the serial killer and their story, and they end up falling in love. Of course, the romance is not quite as heavy in this one as like I said, but it is such a great story. It kept me on the edge of my seat and I absolutely loved it and rated it 5 stars. And then I read Plain Love by Avery Kingston. I just recently read a book by Avery Kingston and loved it, and so I decided to pick up this novella by her, and it was also very well. I just wish it was more to it because I just wanted more of the story. But I rated this one 5 stars, and it's very, very rare for me to rate a novella 5 stars because novellas just are very lacking. They don't give me enough of what I need. I love the whole story, and novellas are just sometimes not enough for me to really connect with that story. But this is about this guy and this girl. They meet on this plane. He's disabled in a wheelchair, and of course he's not in his wheelchair on the plane, so she gets drunk before she gets on the plane because she's nervous about flying, and they're sitting next to each other, and he kind of helps her through the flight itself. They're going to Ireland, and he later realizes for her brother's wedding, which was his friend or buddy in the army, in the military, and they really hit it off, and this was just their short romance about, you know, he falls in love with his best friend's sister, and it was really, really good. I just wish that there had been a whole lot more to it because I just enjoyed it that much. The next book I read is Captive of the Horde King by Zoe Draven. I've really heard a lot about Zoe Draven and decided to pick up one of her books, and I absolutely loved it. I love this. It is set on this different planet. Earth is no longer inhabitable, so the humans are, you know, distributed to all these different planets, alien planets, and these humans are on this particular planet where the Drakians, I think that's what they're called, and they're very humanistic except for different features. They have tails, they have like red eyes, they have, you know, claws, things that make them not human. they have a king in the city on this planet, but then they also have kings in the wildlands. And so one of the kings comes and she offers herself as kind of tribute because her brother really made a bad mistake and she didn't want him to be punished for it, so she offered herself, you know, in his place. And so he takes her, and this is their romance. I really enjoyed this one and gave it 5 stars. I saw Ava recommend this book a while back and I had to read it. It is Lord of the Fading Lands by C.L. Wilson, and I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it as much as I thought, just because it reminds me more like it's written more like a historical, and I don't read a lot of those, and I listened to it on audio. I feel like if I had read this one physically, I would have liked it even more, but I listened to it on audio and it was good. It was definitely a good romance. This is a fantasy romance. I don't remember what he's called. He's Fae, but he's also like a shifter. He shifts into like this black cat with dragon wings. He discovers this girl is this human girl is his mate, and so he comes to claim her. And this is the first book in the series. I don't know if I'm going to continue. I might if I'm able to get the ebook or the physical book of it. I think I would actually like reading this one physically more than listening to on audio. They have accents and it's more historically written. To me, it reminds me more historical written. So I don't know, maybe I'll continue it if I'm able to physically read it. But I did enjoy it. It was good, and I rated it 4 stars. The next one is Claimed by the Horde King by Zoe Draven. This is the second book in that series. It's another one of the Horde Kings, and he finds this girl. She is starving and hungry from this human village, and she goes hunting to get food, and that is against one of their laws for the humans to do so. So they come to punish her, and while they're punishing her, he recognizes that, you know, this is his mate, and so he stops punishment and takes her back home with him, and it is their romance. Of course, rated at 5 stars. And then I read this book in the Clover Hill romance series. It's called Visible Mending by M. Arbon. This was a really cute short romance between Ed and Keri. Ed he lives in this small town, and he like knows everybody, and very outgoing, just has a great personality. He likes to bake for all of his friends and neighbors, and Keri moves into the house next door, which had just been vacated. And Keri is non-binary and is very nervous about, you know, moving to a new place. They just got out of a relationship that ended badly, and so they meet Ed, and this is their romance, and it was super cute, super adorable, and I rated it 4 stars. Then I read Madness of the Horde King by Zoe Draven. This is the 3rd book in that series. The 3rd book in this series, both the hero and the heroine have special gifts. He can see the dead, and she can feel and manipulate other people's emotions around her. And he has been known as the Mad King because of these, you know, his gift that he doesn't really realize. He thinks something is wrong with him. And he meets her because she is a slave by their enemy, and he rescues her. And they together form up with the other Horde Kings and rescue the other slaves from their enemy. Another good book in this series that I really enjoyed, and I rated it 5 stars. And then it was the last day of May, and I wanted to read just something short to end the month out with. And so I was able to read 2 novellas by Cassie. The first one is Thin Ice. I had seen this one recommended by several people, and I really thoroughly enjoyed this one. This is an ice skater romance. Mila is a figure skater on a figure skater team with her figure skater partner. And they're coached by Logan, and this is actually her and Logan's romance. Her skating partner does like her, but she and Logan have always, you know, admired each other. He has not been their coach for very long, and they have been fighting their attraction for each other just because he is their coach. But it is just a really short, steamy novella, and I really enjoyed it. I love ice skater romances, and I rated it 4 stars. And then I read Coldwood by Cassie. This one I didn't love quite as well. I gave it 3 stars, but this was kind of a take on Little Red Riding Hood. She lives in the woods with her grandmother, and he is a recluse. He's been injured before, and the town has just made him out to be kind of like a monster, and so he lives hidden in his cabin in the woods. She is trapped one evening on her way home from work by these wolves, and he comes and saves her. And this was just a very little short, steamy romance. Not really a whole lot of romance in it. It was more just erotica, but it was cute for what it was, and I gave it 3 stars. So those are all 21 books that I read in May. Let me know if you have read any of these, or if you have any recommendations for me, and what did you read in May? Did you have a good reading month? I hope everyone had a great month, and I'm looking forward to the month of June. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.